I think we've got everyone on board now, and I want to start off first by saying thank you very much for joining us. Our second webinar, live webinar on the National Native Health Research Training webinar series. We generally have a conference, but because of the pandemic, we transitioned over to having a webinar, and we're excited because we are going to be learning a lot about Indigenous research conducted by Indigenous researchers. And we have an impressive panel today in regards to who is going to be talking today. And I'm really excited to share the bios with you in regards to who's going to be here, which is Dr. Elmer Guy, who will be sharing an opening prayer with us. And then we'll also move on to Dr. Denetclaw and then Dr. Gladstone. But let me go back a little bit and just talk about the primary goal of our training initiative here in regards to the tribal health research agenda that we have put together. And that is focused on governance, trust, and culture. Those three words are really relevant in these days in regards to the pandemic and also in regards to the injustice that we are seeing occurring, not only within our own communities, but within nationwide as well as worldwide. But we also want to look at what is contributing toward the growth of our own Indigenous communities through research and what is our researchers, our Indigenous researchers are doing to honor tribal decision-making processes. And we're hoping also that through these steps, that we are also building trust through community participations of all our tribes. And so that we are looking at this information to guide our tribal cultural knowledge and values to share, we ultimately want to look at how the research outcomes are going to help us improve health programs and how the sharing of knowledge and tradition through our research is going to be accomplished through our Indigenous researchers. And so I'm really excited with our panel today that we have, because we're focusing on how they are going to be influencing decision makers, other non-Indigenous researchers, community members, and then also how they're driving the research agenda of governance, trust, and culture forward to the non-Indigenous populations so that they can become our allies and also to become aware of just what is needed in Indian country. So therefore, we are very happy to have you all here. But what I want to do is also work with you in regards to sharing in a good way our opening of this session in a good way with Dr. Elmer Guy. But before I go there, I also want to share that, the webinar protocol is that everyone currently is going to be on mute, but please also mute your phones, computers, and microphones. After each session, there's going to be time for Q&A, but we want to encourage you to type your questions in the chat box on your screen or email your questions to Maggie Grandin, and her email is there. And then keep in mind that this webinar will be recorded and will be available at the nnhrti.org website. As I mentioned, today's agenda is going to be focusing on a keynote presentation by Dr. Wilfred Denetclaw, and he's going to be talking about cell biology, COVID-19, and a long path travel from the Navajo Nation. Dr. Denetclaw is an associate professor in the Department of Biology at San Francisco State University. He is also going to be accompanied by Dr. Joseph Scott Gladstone, who is going to be focused on student mentoring. And he is also going to be talking about theory-driven social marketing. And so what I want to do now is kind of just acknowledge the fact that the situations that we are here right now is focused on areas of COVID-19, areas of racial injustice, and also areas of what we want to do as Indigenous people. I'm a member of the Navajo Nation, and I was born in Tuba City, Arizona. So hello to all my relatives there. And so that being said, what I want to do is kind of share with you as well about the next steps of our next research initiative webinar, which will be on August the 19th. And then at the end of each session, we will give you the opportunity to complete the webinar evaluation. As you can see the link there, but that information will also be shared with you as long as you've registered for the webinar. So let's go ahead and move forward with our introduction to our opening prayer, who is Dr. Elmer Guy. And what I want to do is I want to focus on Dr. Elmer Guy, who is also the president of the Navajo Technical University, and also is the vice president of academics and student services, and is the dean of instruction there. With Dr. Guy's leadership, NTU was named as one of the top 120 community colleges in the United States. Very impressive, because you know, that's one of the first in Indian country. And the Aspen Institute's College of Excellence program commemorated NTU with that honor. But before joining NTU, Dr. Guy was appointed by the Navajo Nation to serve as the Executive Director and Deputy Director for the Navajo Nation Department of Education. Dr. Guy has earned his undergraduate and doctorate degrees from the University of Arizona and a graduate degree from the University of San Francisco. Dr. Guy also serves on the board of the American Indian Higher Education Consortium, or AHEC, the American Indian College Fund Board, the College Board Community College Advisory Panel, as well as other regional and national associations. And so again, I want to give this time to Dr. Guy for our opening prayer. Dr. Guy?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you for that introduction. Greetings to everyone on the Zoom meeting or on the call. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for sharing some valuable information with us today. My colleagues from the tribal colleges and universities, good morning. And we are facing different challenges during this unprecedented time, dealing with a global pandemic. So it seems every day we pray, and we pray that we'll be safe and that we'll overcome this virus, and it will not come into our families or to our schools. And it's a real challenge. So I just wanted to do my prayer in my language, and if you can bear with me. No stan shema please the kai kwe ke on it. Aro se ka ya de sis. Aro de yen de ne da no sonde ka ate do shada ate na ko. Aro ho kai shin ya kon te kan sni. COVID-19, but no. A koya coronavirus with a what a koya the shin da to eat the home then a koya now that the dolls to joke aya Christian law ya ni so the zenigi be ye skin a koya the fashion so ya le the hollow da kai a koya the fish the best so there's best so best guy DJ guitar na so thing on this guitar no sound on this you can ye the guitar that cut on this guitar is this in the and the done in the don't that's then guitar no sound on this Ibe ita da hana sonwe ya begita da hana ye begita da hana ye o ke hana iro le aron da e hona ye linigi en ki o de do soston ki o de so do le benation law ya de ho e ke da hana iro ya de ho ya kyal kha they checked all the tribal colleges or universities in Linigi. Aro Oxide and Linigi, the K, as Tweetani. I don't handle Lishigi students and Linigi all the faculty or staff or they have the budget leader list. Aro Bastai, I don't ask the Hajo at the only transnigi, Ajansi. Mondal donde don hando tila aro da es kane chaho as ale besis wil na ho e ya be kere ditle aro ho ze nigi shin atsla bahado le si vaccine nigi ebe e so ya asil so e ya tropa init aro ho kana le si so carry billy do is banash ni do le si they only, you know, that's not what she had there. She had a car on or the show or at any dashing home at Sato and then at 3 dollars of Kaya hot this. Around the home research that Nenegi Nazca edit the Nenegi home Dr. Denetclaw, yeah. The same called his at all this, you know, the things. Go ya ya bahani tendo le yung cell biology hanigi ado that is hon hidden there since kaji dan linigi but ya what kada yisa bahajo ehela hot ya hita di ta sa linigi jo di je honne nte ko he but ya hon the internet of Linigi I shut I now contain law. Today, yeah, you just lead all this whole tribal college president and Linigi science in a way that helps out out of this over the door, the Kayat that they are now out of this. But yeah, to the Nibe has speed on this, the Katibi. I need to has speed on this, I think, oh, shut I think now contain law. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Guy. I appreciate that. And the words that you mentioned in regards to the education and the need for education and the thankfulness of the people that we currently have in place right now guiding our students is very, very powerful. So I want to thank you for those kind words in your prayer, and also as we learn, you know, to address these pandemics and also to address whatever research that is being presented in front of us. So that's very grateful for you to include all of us in that, and then also for words that for people who are not currently on this webinar. So thank you, thank you very much. So now that we move on, what I want to do is introduce to you our keynote speaker, Dr. Wilfred Denetclaw, who is, as I mentioned earlier, is Associate Professor with the Department of Biology in San Francisco State University. The topic of his presentation today is Academia, Cell Biology, COVID-19, and a Long Path Traveled from the Navajo Nation. Dr. Denetclaw has been an accomplished researcher for some time, and he is following his, or the lead that he's following is in accordance with his traditional Navajo introductions. And also after that, Dr. Denetclaw is following his calling for research based on the clans that he is from. And I will go ahead and let him introduce himself on that. But I want to continue on with his bio, saying that he began his academic education at Navajo Community College, which is now Dene College, and completed a bachelor's degree in biology in 1983 from Fort Lewis College in Durango, Colorado. After that, he did doctoral graduate work at the University of California at Berkeley and was awarded his doctoral of philosophy in zoology in 1991. He also did postgraduate research for several years with Biotechnology, and in 1994, he was a postdoctoral fellow at the University of California, San Francisco at the Cardiovascular Research Institute. He then tracked assistant professorship at San Francisco State University, and in 2006, he was tenured and promoted to associate professor. He also teaches upper division and graduate courses in cell and molecular biology, one of my favorite subjects, and has an active research laboratory in undergraduate and Masters of Science graduate students in his purview. His research investigates messenger molecules in the regulation of vertebrae, embryo myogenesis. Dr. Denetclaw has served on many university committees, recently in the San Francisco State University Academic Master Plan and in the Academic Senate. He has also served in numerous capacities in departmental committees and is faculty director of the Microscopy and Imaging Core facility there. Dr. Denetclaw is also a member of the Society for the Advancement of Chicanos and Native Americans, SACNAS, and is a past board member and is also a member of the Senior Advisories COSA in SACNAS. He's been honored many times, and in particular in 2009 with the SACNAS Presidential Service Award, and in 2004, the Crossing Borders Award. Dr. Denetclaw has also been profiled in several television documentaries, including the 1996 PBS anthology series Breakthrough, profiling 20 American minority scientists, and in the HHMI documentary Not So Wild a Dream. Dr. Denetclaw has been funded by grants from NIH and NSF, and his research is currently supported by UCSF, my bad, NSF, STC grant for the Center for Cellular Construction. So let's give it up for Dr. Denetclaw. Thank you very much, Dr. Denetclaw. That was such an inspiring lecture. I mean, it brought me back flashbacks to me as an undergraduate student at, in biology. I did get my undergraduate in biology as well.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so just, thank you very much. And then the information on COVID-19 is really, impressive. And, I'm most certain that, the publication will be moving forward. It's needed information for our researchers out there. So yeah, I was up there from my heart. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. We're gonna hold questions for both sessions until afterwards.
Okay.
So I hope everyone can stay on board up to the end. And so we're gonna move forward on to our student activity. And our student activity is gonna be with Dr. Joe Scott Gladstone, and Dr. Gladstone is a member of the Nez Perce tribe from the Piikani, Kainai, and Nimipu origin, and he's also, now I want to make sure I do that right, Dr. Gladstone, he's also an assistant professor of health services administration at the University of New Haven. Dr. Gladstone holds a PhD in business administration and specializes in American Indian organization management. His work explores influences that tribal cultures have had on leadership and organizational effectiveness. Before earning his PhD, he built, managed, and delivered health promotion programs for the Paiute tribe, the Tohono O'odham Nation, and the Seattle Indian Health Board. He was a Tribal Leaders Diabetes Committee technical work group member, and served as vice chairman of the Tucson Indian Center. He is president of the PhD Project Management Doctoral Student Association. He created and is the emeritus founding chairman of the Native, Aboriginal, and Indigenous Peoples Caucus of the Academy of Management. And NAIPC is a global organization advancing management and business research seeking to improve Native communities worldwide. At that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Gladstone for your presentation.
Thank you. Just a correction, I'm Blackfeet and Nez Perce. So the other tribes, Piikani and the Kainai are two of the Blackfeet bands, and the Divipu is Nez Perce. Right now, I'm actually having a slight technical problem as expected with my computer security won't let me share my my PowerPoint on this screen. But as always, as I teach people, always go with plan A. And if plan A doesn't work, go with plan B. Be thinking about plan C. Be ready to use plan D because it's going to end up being plan A anyway. So the PowerPoint will be shared. I have it prepared. I can actually, I'll share it afterwards and you guys can kind of see what's going on. So I guess we're going to just embrace a classic oral tradition, and I'll just tell you about social marketing, which is now plan D, which is now plan A. Again, thank you for that wonderful introduction. The social marketing, hold on a second, let me get my notes. Now that I'm going to this plan, I need to go to my notes plan. I asked some people, I asked you to write about, share a question that I had asking, what is social marketing? And so as expected, a lot of people have different perceptions of what social marketing is. And so I'm going to teach you social marketing from a business perspective. This workshop is basically your introduction to social marketing. Hold on a second. I just gotta get my notes here to actually fit. There, now I can see my notes. All right. So, what I'm purpose today is I'm going to introduce you to the necessity of social marketing and how to use health behavior theories in using marketing concepts. As you heard in the introduction, I'm a business professor. My PhD is in business administration. That's what my passion is. I get all foamy mouth and goggly eyed when we talk about organization management. So how do you create an organization? How do you define what the organization will do? And how do you lead it towards its success? In this case, we're going to talk about how do you create an organization whose purpose exists to modify human behavior, and how do you use marketing techniques to do that. This is normally a class that stretches a whole semester. So within about the next, let's see, looks like 45 minutes, I will compress everything I can down to 45 minutes. Before I advance on though, I just need to recognize all that I'm actually down in Tiwa country. So I'm on the original lands of Tiwa, and we are all scattered throughout the original lands, the Americas of indigenous country. So just an honor to all those who preceded us and those who will follow us in Indian country. So in this workshop, I'm talking about theory-driven social marketing, and that's the key part about thinking about what theory is. And then I'll explain what the theories are, and then we'll go into tying these theories into marketing strategies. So what is social marketing? Social marketing, there's a lot of definitions. You'll go through a lot of textbooks for those who have had workshops on it, and what I was seeing in the replies to my question earlier. There's a lot of definitions for what social marketing is. For those who have studied health, probably at the university level, you probably are familiar with Glantz and Reimer textbook for health education, and they have chapter 21 is known for social marketing, and they get rather complex into that definition, and you'll find other definitions that will differ from what I'm going to share with you. Again, it's important to note that my definition for social marketing comes from a business management perspective. And social marketing in this workshop is a method to modify human behavior using commercial marketing techniques. And for those of you taking notes, just a really quick thing is that, again, social marketing is a method to modify human behavior using commercial marketing techniques. And that's really important to think about when you're creating a program. Your health programs exist to modify human behavior. I should add that my Master of Public Health is in health education, health promotion. So I look at modifying human behavior, not so much the epidemiology or other aspects of public health. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to get people to do something. What you're trying to get them to do can vary. I ran diabetes programs, and so my job in managing diabetes programs was to reduce the prevalence of diabetes. How do you do that? Well, you encourage people to eat right and to exercise. But how do you get people to eat right? Also, what is eating right? That's another definition. But how do you get people to do these things? How do you motivate people to do things they don't want? This is where you use your health theories. And this is why I call this a theory-driven workshop. And so you have to understand the different health theories that are available to you. These health theories are tools. They're tools that you use to help you plan your program. One thing when you're thinking about social marketing is that when if your program's goal is to try to change people, make them more aware of the risk for a disease, or teach them about symptoms of a disease, make them knowledgeable, or trying to get them to change their mind to do something, that is not social marketing. So social marketing is not related to awareness, knowledge, or changing attitudes. Social marketing is about changing behavior, and behavior are actions, things that people do to get people to get up and exercise, get people to stop smoking, to get people to, whatever it is your program is trying to do. You're trying to get people to do actions, to get them to do some kind of movement. And depending on what your organization's goal is, those could be anything. You probably want somebody to do something as simple as call your program. Picking up the phone, calling you, sending you an email, that's considered an action. And so your social marketing campaign is trying to get people to do something. It's also much easier to measure that way. If you were to put out some sort of campaign and somebody showed up at your shop, you can actually measure that a lot easier than trying to measure attitudes and behaviors. But that's a whole different course in its own right. Again, so for the purpose of this workshop, social marketing is about trying to get behavior change out of people, trying to modify behaviors. And those behaviors are about actions. How do you change behavior? So the subset of health behavior modification within public health is health education, health promotion. And you try to change these behaviors through influence and through support. It's a two-way street. You can't do, I get a lot of, and I admit I was once a young public health professional years ago, and I thought the same way. But I've met a lot of my younger students who want to go in and they want to get people to eat right. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to go in, get my education, I'm going to go into town, and I'm going to tell them what to do. And the key thing is you cannot tell people what to do. People just, I don't know how many of you have been told something to do and you just don't want to do it, usually because somebody told you to do it. But this does not work in health education. What you want to do is you want people to be able to do actions on their own, and that's called influence. You want to influence people. You want to motivate them. You want to inspire them. You want to get them to think about their risks for certain diseases, or if they're thinking about risks for certain diseases, you want to help them find ways to do something about it. And so the influence part is getting them to do an action. But you can't leave them hanging. Once you get them to start doing an action, they need support, especially in Indian country. You have very small rural communities, not a lot of resources, and people are actually self-motivated. There are people out there who really do want to do change. They want to change themselves. They want to improve themselves. They want to learn to cook better. They want to cook better for their family. And you have to keep that in mind at all times. It's not you telling them what to do, it's you helping them do what they want to do. And that's the support part of health education and health promotion. You're helping these people through your program by providing them the resources they normally don't have. Those resources can be anything from knowledge. How do I make my meals less fat? How do I cut down on salt? How do I, do certain exercises? How do I pick out a running shoe or a walking shoe? So people want to do change, but they don't have the resources. So your program exists to provide support for these people. You need to ensure that you can give them the resources they need, whether it's just education, increasing their knowledge, helping them learn to do things on their own, or just as much as just motivating them, like, just pep talk. Some people, you try to do something, it doesn't work, and you kind of get down. Well, your program provides that kind of moral support as well. You help people, lift themselves up and get rolling along. Other people, there are people who want to learn how to, motivate the rest of their family, but they don't know. Everyone, I'm trying to exercise, but nobody in my family wants to do anything. How do I do that? And so your program has to be able to provide that resource. How do I actually teach somebody to communicate with their own family? So as you notice so far in the short time that I've been talking to you, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on with health education and health promotion. It's more than just creating a gym and having it available for people to show up. It's more than just having walking activities. It's a whole aspect of behavior modification, communicating with people, teaching them things, get them to do action. All right. Another thing to keep in mind, though, when you're just a caveat, another one is that I'm talking about people. Health education, health promotion is for individual and it's for communities. So you can look at it in two different ways. Just for the sake of this workshop, I'm going to talk only about people. You can actually extend a lot of this to community level. So again, about influence, you can never tell people what to do. Those of you watching me right now on this video, on this talk, I don't know if anyone actually went and grabbed you and told you to come and sit down in front of your computer screen to watch this workshop. You probably heard about this workshop and you found out that it's something that would probably be helpful for you. That's influence, and that's actually the, this workshop was provided. It's going to give you information that's going to be useful for you, something that you can use yourself, something that'll improve your career, improve the way you run your organization. And that's all part of that influence. But nobody drug you to come to this workshop. You did that on your own. And this is how you do health education and health promotion. You want people to do things on their own. If they do it on their own, they will sustain behaviors much longer. But what techniques do you use? Okay. So we're going to get into some of the health behaviors here. There we go. Okay. I talked about theory several times, and a lot of people have don't fully understand what a theory is. And so I need to explain to you what is a theory, all right? And again, for the sake of this workshop, a theory describes, explains, and predicts phenomena, all right? And again, for those taking notes, a theory describes, explains, and predicts phenomena. And phenomena can be anything out there. For example, phenomena can be human behavior. All right, and for the case of here. And so in the case of health behavior, theory describes these things that people do. Sometimes it describes the crazy things that people do. Why do people not wear motorcycle helmets when it's well known that motorcycle helmets will keep your head from getting splattered over the road? Yet they don't wear motorcycle helmets. Well, there's a theory that describes that. Also, it describes the good things that people do. Why do some people wear motorcycle helmets? Why do some people walk and do exercise? These theories do that. Okay? They also explain the nature of why people do that. And Siri is actually trying to listen to me right now. Sorry about that. I think Siri thinks that I'm saying theory. Sorry about that. So it explains what people do, all right? And then the last thing that you can use theory, because since you already have an idea based by theory what people do and explains why people do it, you can use a theory to predict outcomes. You can predict what's going to happen. If you plug in A to these certain situations, you might get B. Okay, so theory is used as a tool to increase the likelihood of success in your programs. All right. Just a side note I want to add. So, you know, I'm one of these PhD types. I'm a business scholar. I do research or studies things, and that's because, you know, I'm really nerdy that way. Folks with PhD spend our time getting all nerdy about theories, and we generate new theories. We refine existing theories. We find ways to apply existing theories to new situations or disciplines, such as for me, I apply business theory to health education and health promotion. Or we translate theories into practical applications. So for those of you who are considering PhDs, that's the cool thing you get to do at this level, is I'll get all nerdy about theories. And I should add that, you know, when you think about it, you've heard people probably, if somebody called you a nerd, everybody with a PhD is a nerd. It's just that we PhDs are licensed nerds. Okay, so, but feel free to get a hold of me or anything about that if that's something that really intrigues you and you want to go down that route. All right, let's go off and get back to these theories. I'm going to talk to you about the Transtheoretical Model, the health belief model, the theory of reasoned action, and theory of planned behavior. That last one are actually two theories in one. And then I'm going to talk to you about social cognitive theory. Okay, these theories will help you with your behavior aspect of your marketing campaigns. Okay. Now, some of you might have heard these theories before in other courses. I'm just going to go over them again for the sake of those who haven't. And also, I'm the type of person who takes very complex theories and try to make them as simple as possible. Transtheoretical model you might have heard of as stages of change. The transtheoretical model, and to use a fancy academic word, postulates that people change their behavior in stages, that people go through these stages to change their behavior from one behavior, these actions they did before, to a new, hopefully better behavior. These stages are pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. Again, those stages are pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail again for just for sake of time, but this will be up on the PowerPoints will be posted later on. And these are also information you can get through a lot of health education resources. So just to summarize though, pre-contemplation means that certain behavior that you want the person, a desired behavior. So let's say you want people to do exercise, you want them to walk, but you have some people who just have no desire whatsoever to walk. That's just not in the slightest bit of the mind. It's not there. It doesn't exist. They're not even thinking about it. So the target behavior is not even in their mind. That's pre-contemplation. Contemplation means that the people are aware of it. Yeah, I should exercise, shouldn't I? Yeah, someday. So as you notice, they know they should do some exercise, but they're not ready yet. They just know it's there, okay? The next one is preparation. There are those people who say, well, I really should exercise. I wonder what I should do next. Maybe I should go out and go get some walking shoes or something like that. Okay, so where do I go and buy walking shoes? I don't know. Maybe I'll go down to that fitness program down on the res there. Maybe they can help me with that. Okay, that's a preparation stage. So they're not yet doing any activities related to the change, but they're getting ready to make that change. Action, of course, is that next stage. They are now getting into walking programs. They're going around, you know, whatever it is. They take part in your walking fun runs. They go down and hit the treadmill, whatever. Those are people who are still making that, they're actively doing something, but the new behavior is not locked in yet. So they could still do what's called relapse. And so they're learning these new things, they're practicing these new things. and they're getting used to how to do this new behavior. The last stage is maintenance, and this is where the new behavior is locked in. It's the norm for them. It becomes routine for them. They don't need to think about how to do something. It's part of their life. So again, pre-contemplation, it's not in their mind. Contemplation, it's on their mind, but they're not doing anything about it. Preparation, it's on their mind, and they're actually looking for more information to make that next step to action. Action, they're learning the new behavior, they're practicing that new behavior. Maintenance, the behavior is locked in. Okay, so that's Transtheoretical Model. The next model is Health Belief Model, HBM. And Health Belief Model has two parts, Part A and Part B. You need both parts. Part A of Health Behavior Model, Health Belief Model, is that a person believes they are at risk for a disease, okay? And the second part is they believe they can do something about it. And this is very important. When I worked in this one diabetes program, the community had a very high rate of diabetes, but nobody was really participating in the activities that were being done. And the thing is that these people knew they were at risk. And you would think that if somebody felt that they were at risk, they would want to take part in the program. Well, that's the first part of the health belief model. They feel they're at risk, but they're not changing because they don't believe they can do anything about it. That's really important. So you have two parts to health belief model. You feel that you are at risk, but if you cannot do anything about it, you will not change behavior. And so your program needs to do that awareness part and education part for them to get them knowledge about it, but you need to do the behavior part to get them to act. All right, so you provide that support. Okay. The next theory is a two-part theory. Again, it's called theory of reasoned action and theory of planned behavior. For those who formally studied this, you'll study these as independent theories, but they work together. They're integrated. This is all what goes on in a person's mind. It's about rational thinking. Theory of reasoned action. So people rationalize their behaviors. Why do I do things? What's the benefit of this behavior that's going to do anything? What am I going to get out of this deal? If I don't walk, I'm probably just going to sit there and get unhealthy. If I do walk, I'm going to get healthier. But other people have different reasons for rationalization, not just for health. A good example, again, is motorcycle helmets. You have a lot of people who do not wear motorcycle helmets, and I'm going to pick anybody out there who happens to ride a Harley, I'm going to call that class out because it's just a trend amongst people who ride this group. And it's important to point out groups too. So I apologize in advance if you ride a Harley and you think I'm knocking you. But people who ride Harley Davidsons tend to not wear helmets. Okay, they like that freedom. They want that independence. They want that identity of having that. It's my life. I get to determine what I want to do. And I'm not going to wear a helmet because also the other people I hang out with might bug me about wearing a helmet. Some people are cool about it. Some people aren't. And it's the people I worry about giving me the trouble that inspires me to not wear a helmet. That is reasoned action. So people rationalize not just what the benefit is for them, but a whole bunch of other things, the emotional factors that come in. Why do I wear certain clothes, certain styles when I'm with this one group, but I wear different clothes and different styles with another group? Okay, that's all reasoned action. And so you have that to do reasoned action in health educational promotion, you really have to talk to the community, talk to your target audience, talk to people. Why do you do things these certain ways? This one tribe I worked with has an obesity problem. And we found out that a lot of the kids in the schools are picking on the skinny kids. And so the skinny kids, felt bad about it. And so they decided not to really watch their weight. And that's a theory of reasoned action. They don't want to be picked on by the bigger kids. And so they're striving to gain weight, which of course leads to obesity, which again leads to diabetes. And so you have to look at that reasoned action. Why do people do certain things? Okay. Now, as you notice, they rationalize these certain things and then they act on that. And that's the planned behavior. So again, go back to not wearing motorcycle helmets. I don't wear a motorcycle helmet because of peer groups. If I were to put on a motorcycle helmet, the people I want to hang out with and identify with will probably give me trouble. So I plan to not wear a motorcycle helmet. That's planned behavior. So theory of reasoned action, theory of planned behavior is two parts. You need to use them together. You used reasoned action to help you figure out why people do the things they do. You use planned behavior to figure out what it is they do. Of course, you use that to your advantage. You give them different reasons. You give them better reasons to do something that will benefit them or benefit their image or anything else. It's a complex theory to use, but it's a resource that's available for you. Another thing you can use for, go back to motorcycle helmets, in Washington State, New Mexico doesn't have mandatory helmet laws, but California and Washington State do. People wear helmets there, not because it's a fashion statement, but because they don't want a ticket. Again, I rationalize, if I do not wear a helmet, I will get a ticket. I do not want a ticket. Therefore, I will put on a helmet. So that's another way of using theory of reasoned action, theory of planned behavior. The next one is social cognitive theory, and SCT. And this social cognitive theory is simply, and a lot of my public health colleagues think I take it too simply, but social cognitive theory is monkey see, monkey do. And this is where people learn behaviors by watching their peers or watching their elders or watching their friends or anything else. You learn behaviors through social interaction. You get families do certain things. One of the fun things I always find, especially on the East Coast, is when I bring up Spam. We have Spam and eggs. We have Spam musubi. Spam is wonderful. Spam is a great thing. I like Spam. Spam is very tasty. And then you get people who have never had Spam. They just hear the word Spam and they go, ugh, Spam? And they don't know. And that's social cognitive theory. It's all social driven. It's the group you hang out with. Another thing about social cognitive theory, you pick it up through your peer group. You have social cognitive theory is very fun to watch with high school kids and college freshmen and sophomores, because college freshmen and sophomores are learning new things, or figuring out their way of life, figuring out where they belong, and they adjust very quickly for their in-groups, and they're referent others. And so that's social cognitive theory. You use social cognitive theory in health education a lot in social marketing campaigns, because it's a way to where people try to seek their identity or they try to learn new things. You use that, you can use social cognitive theory to kind of get people, whole groups, to change their behaviors. Again, it's a pretty complex way to do it, but it's just a tool that's available for you. And if you have more questions on that, you'll have my email address after this presentation. All right. So now we have these theories that are available. Oh, really quick, I forgot to mention, social cognitive theory is strongly driven by cultures. Okay, it's very cultural. As I mentioned, Spam, fry bread. Fry bread is a culture. Yeah, I have a lot of people who work in nutrition, and I bet you, I can't see videos, but I suspect that some of you might be shaking your head just as it's not traditional. I disagree. Fry bread is a very strong indigenous identity nowadays. It might not have been with us, for ages, but again, neither have rifles, horses, sheep, wool, sewing machines, or anything else. And those have been very well integrated into the culture. And so you have to, you can't use fry bread as being non-cultural and try to drive it out. You have to teach people how to use fry bread differently, to watch portion control. It's one of the problems with fry bread is that when, what was it I did one time? So this one group I worked with, we had a food nutrition campaign, and we tried to tell people to not eat, well, for those who work in nutrition, we always talk about portions. Don't eat anything bigger than your hand. It should be right. But the thing in what I've seen traveling throughout the country, not only just the country, but through the world, I do some work with Maori and Aboriginals, is that food is very integrated into our culture. It's part of our way of life. You show up, we have feeds, you get offered food, you don't turn it down, you eat it. but we don't want people to leave on an empty stomach, right? And so we have to teach people about portion control. And so you can't really use eat something smaller than your hand. We got to start small and say, don't eat anything smaller than your head, okay? Or don't eat anything bigger than your head. And that's the problem with fry bread that I see, is that you go to fry bread and, you got big giant things. And I made fry bread the other day, and they're about the size, my fry breads are about the size of a Krispy Kreme donut. They taste like fry bread. They're as good as mom's fry bread, but they're smaller. And so that's part of that cultural thing. It's where you do have to work around culture a little bit. Fry bread is part of the culture. It's part of identity. It's a fun part of it, because if you ever want to have a good conversation, just talk to people about the different fry breads: northern fry bread, southern fry bread, eastern fry bread, Bannock. So it's really important. Those are all tied to social cognitive theory. So it's driven by culture, and then there's subcultures, people within different cultures. And so your strategies for social cognitive theory need to be driven by local community cultures. And that will be very useful for you. Okay, so now these are the different theories that are available for you, and there's more that are available for you too, but just for sake of time, those are the ones I'll cover for now. So social marketing, how do you use these different things in social marketing? Again, social marketing is using business techniques for behavior change, and especially marketing techniques. And the marketing and the business side consists of something called the marketing mix, and that's the marketing mix. And the marketing mix are also known as the 4 Ps: product, price, placement, and promotion. Okay, these are the 4 things you do in marketing. That's very important. And I'm going to repeat it. And it's for my students in my classes. This is the easiest way to fail my class, is they get the order wrong: product, price, placement, promotion. Don't get those out of order, because marketing works in that order. And what I saw in a lot of the responses that were sent to me, and also talking to people out in the community, when they think about social marketing, they think first about the last P, promotion. And you cannot start at promotion. You have to start in order: product, price, placement, promotion. All right. So social marketing is, 1, about having a product for a consumer, and that product can be anything. All right. I don't know if you saw, but my son had walked in during this presentation, and he brought me this very delightful Starbucks iced coffee, and that's a product. All right. The Starbucks iced coffee is a product. And the thing that I like about this product is, 1, I like coffee. Okay, like any trickster out there, they like to drink their coffee. I like coffee, and it's a product that I want. All right. 2 things to remember, though. I just said I want. You have to think about marketing as about filling needs or filling wants. All right. So you create something that somebody either needs. I technically do not need coffee, but it's something I want. And so you need to figure out what it is your consumer needs or what they want. And you need to provide that for them. That's what marketing does. And that's what the product is. Now, this comes into health. Well, what do I offer people in health? Well, I can offer people, lower weight. I can offer people, lower cholesterol. I can give them the confidence of how to treat diseases and other things. Well, that's your program's desire, but what does the consumer want? So what Starbucks wanted was my money for this coffee. That's what Starbucks wanted, okay? And so you got to think about your program. What does your program want compared to what your consumer, your target audience, your target community, what is it that they want or need? And you take marketing from the consumer perspective. That is another way. You have to do everything in order, but you also have to remember that you're designing your program for the consumer's needs, not your need, and believe it or not for the grant provider's need. That's going to raise a bunch of arguments. You got to serve the grant, but your goal is to change human behavior, and your grant exists to change specific human behaviors. And so you have to think this way. I have to get people to reduce diabetes, right? I have to get diabetes down in the community. That is my, that is the purpose for this program. But what is it that the consumer wants? Well, there are people who do not want to get diabetes. They want to prevent diabetes. Those people who do have diabetes don't want the complications of diabetes. They do not want to go onto dialysis. They do not want amputations. They do not want to do insulin shots, okay? You have to look at it from that perspective. What is it that they want? What is it that they desire? And your program exists to fulfill those needs. So when you look at social marketing from a business perspective, you're looking at what it is the consumer wants, not exactly what it is you want to do. Hopefully, through the process of fulfilling those consumer needs, you will achieve your program goals, be it reduce heart disease, reduce diabetes, reduce incidence of coronavirus infection, reduce STDs, whatever it is. But to take a marketing perspective, you need to take that from what is it that the consumer wants to do. So it's really important then that you have a good understanding of what your consumer market is. What is it that people want? One thing about marketing to remember again is that you cannot make people change their behavior ever. You help them change their behavior. Okay, it's the people, they want to do the change. And your job is to help them do that. That's the marketing thinking. I wanted a Starbucks. That's what I wanted. I asked my son to go get it. And so what I wanted, I contracted my son out to go and pick it up. But the thing is that Starbucks was around to make sure I got the product, all right? So price, product, price, placement, promotion. So you have to first think about what it is people want. And that's a very complex thing. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to cover it. So the next thing I'm going to cover is the price. Everything costs a price. Maybe, I don't charge people to come to the program. We don't charge an admission fee. We don't charge them walking fees. Some programs might have registration fees to do fun runs or anything. But in the grand scheme of things, you don't charge anything for the community. It's free to them monetarily. But you take their time. And just like you're sitting there watching this video, watching this presentation, it's your time that I'm charging you. And you could be spending your time doing something else. Just like the people in your community, they could spend their time watching TV. They could spend their time going to town and not going to your programs. The price you charge for your consumers is their time. And so therefore you have to maximize maximize the return. If a person spends time at your program, you want them to feel that it was time well spent, that it was something worthwhile, that they got something important out of it, something useful. And you want to charge them a price that they're willing to spend again. Go back to my Starbucks example. Starbucks, it's a pricey product, but it's a price I am willing to spend. So in terms of pricing and marketing, you need to find a price that people are willing to pay. And so when you design your programs, you have to have an understanding of your target market. How much time are people willing to spend with you? Maybe some people only want to spend 30 minutes at a time in your activities. Keep it to 30 minutes. Maybe you want more people have more time. You can make longer activities, or you can break the activities across certain periods of time. You can make it a 3-month program in small chunks. That's the price part. So always keep in mind how much time your consumers have to spend with you, right? So product is what it is you're offering, and then price is their time. Placement is also important. Many reservations, especially in the West, are very large, very rural, and not a lot of resources out there, not a lot of infrastructure. So you got to make sure that your product, your services are at a place that people can reach, all right? You need to make sure that if you have a gym, is that gym conveniently located? if it's not conveniently located for the people and they don't have cards or other ways to get there, can you get them to your program? Or can your program go to them? Okay. And so one thing nice about the internet right now, and here's a great example of placement. This workshop, we could have traveled to one town and had a workshop. I could have been standing in front of you and we'd all would had to travel to that place, or we could use the internet and bring the services to you. So remember, placement is basically accessibility to your customers, getting your product to the customer. Next time you go to the grocery store, look at placement. Look at where the business world places things so that you can buy it. Especially where they place candy next to the checkout stand. That's placed right where you can see it and grab it and go. Starbucks was very convenient. They have a pickup service, and I actually made it very easy for my son to go pick it up and bring it to me. We have UPS, we have all these other things. So placement in this modern era is much different. In health education, health promotion, placement is where you place your program and make it accessible to your consumer. You can place it, again, get them to you. They can walk there, you go to them. Also in health communication, where you place posters, where you place billboards, where you place signage. Think about that. You want your place where people will see the messages you're trying to get to them. And that's in health communications, a whole different topic we could talk at another time. Finally, the last one, social marketing promotion, product, price, placement, promotion. The rule in promotion is you cannot promote anything that does not exist. You cannot have posters for a program that don't exist. A lot of programs fail because they work on the promotion campaigns without really a lot of thought about the product, the price, and the placement of those things. You advertise a walking program and people show up and no one's really there yet. They're still setting up. That's because they didn't think about the first three parts beforehand. You advertise your gym, people show up, but your gym is closed. You have to think about, that's another thing about placement, the time. One of my first places I worked at, the gym hours are pretty much from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Not good placement. We had to change the hours from 5 a.m. until 10 p.m. And also we found out in terms of what community wants, a lot of people came to the gym, not to exercise, but because it was the only air-conditioned place in town that was open to the public. And so those are other things to think about, why people go to your activities. And so do promotion last. Promotion is a whole different science in its own right, though. It's health communications. And that's what some people I saw in the response for social marketing, where they were talking about using posters and banners and other things to get people to change their behaviors. That's another aspect of social marketing, primarily a health communications aspect. Again, I don't have the time to cover that right now, but you do want to write down the word health communications, and you can reach out to me later on and I can explain that aspect more. And so when you're thinking about social marketing, the key thing, at least in this workshop, is that it is a business approach to health, getting people to change their behaviors in the context of health. You're trying to change behaviors. You're trying to get people to do things. And you're creating a program that addresses what your community, your target community wants or needs, preferably what they want. And you fulfill that want for them. You provide resources for them. You provide a product for them. You make sure that product is something they can afford, basically in time. You make sure that that product can get to them. Either they can come to you or you can get to them, that the hours are open and accessible. And then you finally let people become aware that it's a resource available for them to do what they want to do themselves. And the way that helps you that helps you plan your program, how do I inspire people to do these things, are the Transtheoretical Model, the Health Belief Model, Theory of Reasoned Action, Theory of Planned Behavior, and Social Cognitive Theory. Again, only those 4 models in this workshop because of time. Other than that, that's pretty much social marketing from a business perspective. Hopefully I fulfilled a need that you wanted and that you learned something in this workshop today. The last thing for those, it'll be posted when the when I get the PowerPoint up. Again, I apologize for the PowerPoint thing. I should have thought about permissions on my computer, but you know, I got gray hair. I keep forgetting about these modern technology things. So that's my bad. I usually have TAs do this for me. That's why you always hire younger TAs. My email address for those who want to reach out to me directly is one word, nativebizprof, NAITIVEBIZ, or Z for those who might be in Canada, prof, P-R-O-F, at iCloud.com. And that'll be posted later on. You can look at that. And you can just write to me and I'll be more than happy to talk to you more. I'm also very happy to go out to Indian country. If you ever want me to come out and visit you, I can probably get out there, especially after the dust settles with COVID. So that's about it that I have for you right now. And if there's any questions, I guess it's time for that question and answer session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gladstone. What, inspiring information in regards to theory. As a public health advocate going through graduate school, theory into reasonable action was one of the presentations that I presented in one of my courses. And I remember thinking, how would I translate theory if I was doing this on my reservation, which is Navajo reservation? How would I make sure that my relatives would understand me when I'm talking about theory? And that was where I got stuck. But yeah, it's good information. Thank you very much. So let's go ahead and move on to questions. Maggie, what questions do we have for Dr. Denetclaw?
Hi, so just because we're a little short on time, I only have one question for each of you. So to start with Dr. Denetclaw, this relates back to the earlier part of your presentation, but what are the implications, if any, with delayed myotome formation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I didn't say I'm a basic scientist, so as opposed to a biomedical scientist. So my interest is to understand how nature works. And in the context of nitric oxide signaling, we show its involvement in early embryonic development. So it has a role in that process. And so in terms of health, there are a lot of congenital defects that happen very early on as the embryo is beginning its formation. So heart development, for example, heart disease. Congenital heart disease is about 1% of the births that happen each year. And out of that, about 1 out of 4 are serious enough that it requires surgery to correct them. So the process of heart developmental damage in the heart is happening very early on as the embryo is beginning those different changes that you saw in the embryo, going from the amorphous tissue into a structured one that then later differentiates and all of a sudden now has an assignment of those cells to create different parts of the heart. And in my work, we actually study heart development with nitric oxide. I didn't talk about that work, but we show that you can cause the heart to invert by putting nitric oxide or preventing its presence of nitric oxide in the early embryo. So you have what is called situs inversus of the heart. If you manipulate the development of the heart with a change in nitric oxide expression. So there are those kinds of things. There are fusion defects of the heart tube and things like that that are driven by nitric oxide that are also prevented from forming correctly. So that would be the implication, I would say, of basic science as an example applied to medicine.
Wonderful, thank you. And just real quick before we switch over to Dr. Gladstone, do you have an expectation for when your work will be published?
It's been submitted to a journal, and so it's being reviewed now, and we'll probably, if it comes back negative, that is to say they want to go to a one of their subordinate journals. You had to pay nowadays. That's different from the old days where they accepted it and you got it published. But today they want you to pay money to have your work published. So it's a little bit tough when you're dealing with online journals sometimes. But there is a source that you all should be aware of called medRxiv. medRxiv are pre-publication locations for works that have been completely completed and are still awaiting a decision on publication. So most likely, if we don't hear a positive response from the journal for our work, then we'll put it on medRxiv, and it will be available to everybody while we submit it to other journals for publication. So that's probably going to happen next month if we, as a decision on one way or the other with this work. So it gets out into the public domain, in other words. So medRxiv is totally public accessible. Hundreds, thousands of research papers that are awaiting publication, but they're there. Problem, which is that it's just too slow, and information on COVID-19 needs to get out there, and so not peer reviewed, but it's information that could be peer reviewed very shortly to be published. So you know, it's that kind of site.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Denetclaw. And Dr. Gladstone, just one question for you. As social media becomes a stronger influence in our social interactions, what are the considerations, or are there considerations, that need to be made as it relates to social marketing?
That's one of those things I'm going to have to call my buddy who does social media and turf it off to her. So that will fall in the domain of health communications, first off. And so again, how do you use social media? I got to be honest with you, that is not one of my fortes in that. Primarily, I'm going to go back to my default mode in terms of thinking of business, that social media is a resource for communication. And so it goes back to when you're using social media, that what is your objective? What is your program's goal? What is its objective? You're trying to modify behavior. So how do you use these social media tools to communicate information that is going to change people's behavior to get them to do whatever it is you're trying to get them to do? So that's just to go back to the very basics. Social marketing is using these marketing techniques to modify human behavior. You want people to do things. And so when you're thinking about social media, how do you use this platform for communication to get people to do things? Unfortunately, that was a question you asked that's just outside of my area of strength. So I apologize for not giving you an answer that you probably sought.
Wonderful, not a problem at all. So that is going to be it for our question and answer. And I do apologize that we are cutting it a little short today. So if anyone who is on and participating would like to ask more questions, please make sure to send them to me. And I will make sure to reach out to Dr. Denetclaw or Dr. Gladstone to get you those answers. I would like to now turn it back over to Yvonne for our wrap up.
Sure, absolutely. Just a reminder that we are going to be focused on our next session, which is going to be slated for August the 19th. And also that those sessions will be posted on our website. And also here I'm showing you the SurveyMonkey link that you will also be receiving if you have registered to provide your feedback. But again, what I want to do now is say thank you to our two presenters, Dr. Wilfred Denetclaw and also Dr. Joseph Scott Gladstone, for their valuable information and information that we definitely will use, I certainly will, as we move forward, dealing with public health issues, dealing with health issues in general, but also dealing with research in Indian country. At that, I'm going to go ahead and say bid you all a good day, and we'll see you next month.
Okay, Habana, everybody.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful day, everyone.